This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 167. Tonight I'm joined by Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
Howdy.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Hey.
So tonight we are recording our July AggroChat Game Club game, in which we chose to play Stormblood. We're going to do things a little bit out of order because Thalen is not actively playing Final Fantasy XIV right now. And in part, like, Thalen is one of those people that is more concerned about spoilers than some of us are. So I don't want to force Thalen into spoiler zones. So instead, what we're going to do real quick is talk about the August Game Club game, which is backwards from the order in which we normally do. So, Thalen, what will we be playing in August?
All right. August's game is a story of murder, motorcycles, and adorable battery-powered bunnies.
Shit, yes.
Among other things. So one of the classics of adventure game, recently remastered, Full Throttle.
And it's like practically available on every platform.
Yes, and it's even on sale right now. Possibly even while you're listening to this.
Because isn't this even available on Android and iOS?
Very likely.
I think it is.
Double Fine's been basically, putting all their stuff out on everything when they remaster stuff, so yeah.
I've never played this game, and I really like Lucas adventure games, so I'm going to be excited to see this.
I'm super excited about this. I haven't played this game in a really long time, and it was amazing when I played it before.
I basically missed this entire era of adventure games, so I also have not played this.
I love these kind of adventure games, but I've never played this one either, so I'm excited.
It's been so long. Like, it has been a really long time. I played it when it first came out, and that was the last time I played it. So yeah, that's our next game. So hopefully everybody will pick it up and play along with us. So now we dig into the July game. So we kind of knew going into this that we were all going to be playing Stormblood because, it's an expansion release for Final Fantasy XIV. And that tends to bring us all out of the woodworks to play it.
User left your channel.
And I'm not even sure how to start talking about Stormblood as an expansion.
So the statue that is in the collector's edition box has Xenos on it, and it contains a giant spoiler on it because it also has Shinryu on it. You don't really notice that. He's in the background of that shot.
Really? So, I guess we should just give a heads up.
Grumble.
We're going to be spoiling stuff tonight, as we normally do during one of our delves. So if you've not played Stormblood, you might
go
return.
away.
You
Come
might
back
return.
next week.
You might return and listen to this after you've played it. And honestly, I think most everybody's made it through Stormblood as the expansion as far as people in our free company that could be spoiled by content. I think we still have a few people that are still, I think, working on Heavensward, so obviously they're not through it, but
Heavensward and earlier, yeah.
So when we last left the main story quest, we basically got baited into a war with the Imperials.
Yes.
Some jackass decided to use the Eyes of Nidhogg, which we failed to destroy because we're idiots.
I mean, we threw him off a bridge. What could go wrong?
What? Why was that ever a good idea? Who thought that was a thing? It was
never a good idea.
Who was the one throwing them?
Thought it was a good idea.
Okay. I couldn't remember who actually did that.
Anyway, yeah, threw the Eyes of Nidhogg off a bridge. That didn't go well. Shinryu got summoned. Fought Omega. Q expansion.
So, which is honestly a weird place to start an expansion.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a much bigger call to action than some of the other starts of expansions.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like it was a weirder start of an expansion than the last one. Because Heavensward was everything is gone.
Everything is awful.
You're a fugitive.
You're a fugitive. Maybe go somewhere else for a while.
Well, this was very much, well, I guess we're going to war now.
Yes.
So
Although
we had known for a while that basically this was an expansion that was going to center around Doma and Alamigo, which are two countries that were at some point in the past taken over by the Garlean Empire. And what was the time frame, like 25 years, 50 years, 25 years, I think?
I thought it was 25 years was how long they were ruled by the Mad King Theodoric. And
Yeah,
then,
it's
Alamigo
very
thing is
recent.
more recent. Doma was 20 years ago.
yeah. But the expansion starts off like it is super bleak the first couple of zones you're going through. You do not get good news for a while.
No. And I have to say that going into this expansion, like the cinematic that led up to it, like all of that I was excited about, but the prospect of going to these places was not super exciting to me, and the prospect of a war with the Imperials was not super exciting to me. And right out of the gate, this expansion did a really spectacular job of drawing me in anyway, and I was super happy playing.
Yes, 100% agreed. Like, there was the super frustration with Raubon EX at the very start. But that was so frustrating because it had managed to hook me by that point. Even though it was I'm completely with Grace in that.
But I definitely was hooked by that and the part that came immediately afterward.
Also true. But yes, I'm definitely with Grace in that I was not super into, like, I wanted to go to Doma because I really like the Domans. And so I was excited about that. But like Alamigo, it's funny. They dropped the thing relatively early on where they introduce you to the character, like, hey, do you remember me? I'm from Quarry Mill. And like, I do remember that guy. He's the reason I think Alamegans are assholes. Like, I remember him very clearly, and it's like, they really wanted me to care about Alamigo, but every Alamegan I've met who isn't a Scion or Raubon is a douchebag. And like, even the ones that I'm ostensibly supposed to feel sorry for that you run across in Ul'dah that are like, hey, we're refugees, but we're also like conspiring to murder everybody.
Yeah, that's
Like,
the thing, is like the conspirator aspect that you run into a couple of times is like, no, you're horrible. You're horrible people. Why should I care?
Yeah, like, it doesn't really.
I don't know. The Monk 30 to 50 deals with a lot of that, actually. Like, your quest giver and the actual monk are both Alamegans trying to deal with this whole thing in different ways. So the Monk 30 to 50 gets you a chance to meet some Alamegans who are not terrible people, although you do admittedly end up fighting one of them. But like, I will say though, that was quite some time ago that I did the Monk level 50 quest. So in the meantime, it's just kind of all kind of blends together.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, it was just one of those things where, like, I kind of got it because these were desperate people in a really awful situation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. It's just that prior to this expansion, I felt like I hadn't seen any of the desperate people in an awful situation. I saw down on their luck people doing really awful things. And I hadn't really seen the, like, there wasn't a lot of visibility into, like, you know, people just trying their best. It was people actively doing really harmful stuff, which, you know, makes for interesting quest content, but also that didn't endear me to Alamegans off the bat.
I mean, I admit, like, a large part of why I really wanted to go to Doma was because I love Cyan from Final Fantasy VI.
So
and Doma is from Final Fantasy VI.
I really love as the total counterpoint to that, you run into all kinds of domans, and I get them, and I get their plight, and I am totally on board, and I'm like interested in helping them because I've met them, and they're cool, and I like them, and I want to help, and like I was really excited about Doma for that reason, and I feel like one of the things that helped draw me into the opening part of the expansion was that I got to meet a lot of, you know, genuinely good folks, Alamegans, trying their best, trying to make the best of their situation in whatever way made sense to them, which often meant giving us the finger, but it made sense.
Well, and I think one of the interesting things that the expansion does pretty early on is it shows you that the Alamegans are not exactly a monoculture. Like, there are the Alamegans that are the resistance, there are the Alamegans that are the sympathizers, and then there's, like, everyone else kind of caught in the balance as those two groups are, waging war functionally for the future of their country.
Yeah, but, like, in the meantime, there's the vast majority of the population, like, they just want to make it through today.
I mean, like, it's heartbreaking when you, like, save someone and they're frustrated and like they're going to be late and you shouldn't have done that because now it's just going to be worse on our village.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah. That's the whole bleakness I was talking about, which is was kind of rough for me to chew through.
But I feel like having that bleakness there makes the ultimate later things that happen all the better.
I can see that.
I always find that interesting. I felt like the early part of this expansion really like crystallized something that I'd never really quite understood. Because Kojo, you've talked about like your love for just immeasurably tragic, sad indie games, but not bleak. They can't be bleak. Sad, yes. Bleak, no. And I find that really interesting because the start of this it's bleak.
Well, bleak, sad, yes, but like some of the commentary is like it's very almost self-defeating. It's like it is. This is awful, and this is never going to get better.
Yeah, I guess hopeless is a better word than
bleak. That's yes, very hopeless, and that's like hopelessness is. There's a lot of it right now, and I am kind of sick of it.
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely a darker expansion.
Well, like, and then of course they do to reinforce that they give you an enemy that you just consistently get beat up by, which they've never really done in the past. But like, this is the first expansion where you have like in Xenos a character who is going to constantly beat the main character up.
Right, he's just better. He's just
Maybe
that much better.
The best lawyer in the world.
Yeah.
I think that the thing that's super interesting to me is the way that the story plays out, to where you quickly realize that the wall of Garleans in Alamigo is way too fortified to break through it first. And functionally, it's like the heat is on too much, and no one really wants to get involved in an open war between the capital cities and the Garleans. So it's this weird, like, Cold War thing going on there. And instead, we go across the sea where we're totally unknown elements and start trying to help out in Doma.
And I was pleasantly surprised how quickly that happened. Like, because we started in Alamigo and I thought, oh, we're going to be here for a while. And no, like, they did a good job also of giving you a change of scenery multiple times right about when you needed it.
Yeah.
I will say overall, the pacing of this expansion was much, much better than Heaven's Ward.
Yes.
Yes, agreed.
Well, notably, another thing that happened was I never really felt like I had to do much to get out of to get to the next level so that I can continue story content.
Yeah, agreed. I never felt in Heaven's Word there were places where I was like, oh my god, I'm tired of this zone, but I gotta keep doing whereas I never once had that this expansion.
Well, and the story was kind of this awesome roller coaster that you got to ride, like with high moments and low moments and high moments and low moments that pushed you through and made you want to get to the next little area.
Yeah, well, I mean, also, and the XP pacing was such that it was very nice.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm sick of this zone. It was, oh, like, I have to do all these side quests because I need XP, and that
I need to
didn't
run
happen
the vault
this time around.
15 times in order to level.
Yeah, there was none of that. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, I can just only do the main story quest and nothing else. Like, I still had to run.
I did, in fact, do that thing that you just said.
I mean, I did very few side quests, I mostly did the main story quest, but I ran some extra dungeons and other things along the way. And there were a few places where I stalled for maybe a quarter of a level before I could pick it back up again. But it was, nothing compared to Heaven's Word.
Thanks to the whole Rawbon thing, I want to say I was 62 by the time I got through that quest. And was never stopped along the way going past that.
That's kind of where I was at too. Like, there was one point at which I needed to go run a couple fates and could ding the next level, but like being stalled out on Raubon was worth a lot of experience, because at that point I was just bored and I was doing everything I could do. So I did like 2 zones worth of side quest material.
Speaking of the start of the expansion, I can tell you that it is entirely possible to get from 50 to 60 in one day.
Yeah, how about them new classes, huh?
I mean, I've gushed over it before, but Red Mage is the class that I always want to play in games, and am never allowed.
I mean, every party wanted a Red Mage in FF11 for like 30 seconds.
Yeah. And even that was worth it, because I got to be the class I wanted to be. Like, it was miserable, but it was miserable that it wasn't a very interesting experience, but like I still got to play the Weaves, Magic, and Melee class together. Like, Weaves, Magic, and Melee is not a heavy armored battle mage. And like, battle mages are rare enough to start with. Giving me the fast kind it never happens. I never get to play that class. Or it's utter tripe. Like, occasionally it's just completely garbage. But no, like, Red Mage is fun. I feel valuable to a group. I feel like I contribute at an appropriate level. And I don't feel like me really wanting to play Red Mage is bringing the group down. Versus maybe I should be playing a different class.
Well, I feel like right now both of those classes are in extremely strong positions.
Yeah.
Like, Samurai is brutal when it comes to like burning something down. They are not great at AoE, but
actually they're really good AoE.
I don't know, like, their AoE doesn't feel as good as others, but
I think it's because their animation lacks like any sort of impact.
Well, that's probably it.
But their AoE is better than most other melee classes, but runs them out of TP faster than any other melee class.
Yes, because you have this really weird rotation if you're wanting to do AoE. But like, for single target, oh my god, being able to hold 3 Sin and Reserve and just know that you can dump it on a target and watch it melt has been so amazing for like any of those encounters where we need to drop this thing quickly. Like the other night when we were doing, the final primal that we'll talk about later, just knowing the fact that like I could melt the tail, like I would just unleash my big attack, buffing it with like the limited time buff things that I have. It was crazy. Like, I love the way that the Samurai feels.
Yeah, both Samurai and Red Mage are in a pretty amazing spot right now.
I'm not really sure if anybody is in a bad spot, though. Maybe Summoner, but...
Probably Machinist.
Summoners complain a lot, but I think the only class in need of some help right now is probably Machinist.
Yeah, I've not played Machinist in the expansion.
Dragoon could maybe also use a little help.
Dragoon is below median, and they don't really have a lot of utility that they are bringing to the party other than their limit break.
I mean,
Scholar just got a little help, and that felt good.
Astrologian got the opposite of help, but they needed it, and even people who were playing Astrologian are like, yep, sure, great. I don't know.
So,
I think most of the classes are in a very good place right now. Like, even the below average classes are not... Nobody is not viable.
Yeah.
So, I want to kind of talk a little bit about how good the dungeons felt this expansion. I mean, mostly in that they seemed to be teaching the players skills as they went along in a way that maybe that the previous... What is your one specific complaint?
2 specific complaints. Well, it's 1 complaint, but about 2 places. Trash in Bardham's Meadow and trash in Kugane Castle. It's really, really hard compared to your gear level when you first get there.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. I mean, like, I kind of got away with it just by having an insane health pool, but it was noticeable. Like, I think those were the places where I would complain about my health bar bouncing.
So I know...
But
go ahead.
None of the dungeons felt like duds. None of the leveling dungeons felt like, ugh, I don't want to have to get that in the roulette.
Okay.
I liked each and every one of them.
I was not. I know this puts me in the minority, but I was not a fan of the first dungeon.
Oh man, I love
Ruby
it
C?
so much.
I really like Ruby C.
Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of felt it like I know it was doing something different, but it kind of felt dull to me.
I mean, it was the least interesting of them because they do the thing where they start out with the least complicated and add more and more ridiculous things until they're just packed full. But I felt like that one more than made up for it for me with just the ambiance of that place. Like, it was
Yup.
awesome. I loved being there.
I mean, I love what's the Mauve Souls in World of Warcraft, and I
Yeah.
love, this one as well because it's that whole ship graveyard feel thing going on. I mean, for being landlocked, I like, undead sea things pretty well. Tentacles and zombies.
I mean, this one was definitely not the only thing in the expansion, but a sign of things to come. Basically ripped straight out of FF5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have particularly strong feelings about that dungeon. I really liked one of the experimental things they did at the very start of it, and I want to see more of that.
When the ship runs aground.
Yeah, the ship runs aground. Like, that was a super well executed moment.
And it's really the first time they've done that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the first time
It's probably a more elegant application of what they did in Dunscape.
Yes, agreed.
Because that ship you're on land docks, basically, which they cover with a whole bunch of effects.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool to see them go minimalist and just sell it. Like, I want to see more. I want to see more of their like experimental narrative dungeons because I felt like there was some really cool stuff in there.
Well, and then you had things like the second fight in Bardom's Metal that was just this weird raid. Are you ready for raiding?
It was so good.
No, the answer is most people are not ready for raiding.
No. But
But really only one person in your party has to get through it.
Right, and that's what makes it less heinous, is like, if everyone had to get through it, it would be the most horrible feeling thing ever. But like, if only one person makes each check, you're fine. So you can absolutely carry an entire party.
Yeah, that fight was such a joy, and just like every time, like the first time I went in there and saw it, it was amazing. And then every time anyone was ready to run that dungeon, I was like right there ready to heal because I just wanted everyone to see it. It was so great. I don't know, and like as a healer, I mean, maybe this is true for everybody, but it was just also nice. Like, this is a break. Like, it wasn't. I mean, it's pretty easy. But you have to do the dance.
So,
but you only have to do the dance.
Yes, it's not you have to do the dance while tanking 5 million things and dodging all of their attacks and so on and so forth.
Well, like everything
it is not
else
actually that easy though. Like, those are some of the more complicated mechanics they use, but you only have to worry about the dance.
Sure, it was very much like Mechanics the Fight, except that we didn't also have to worry about keeping people alive or doing DPS. You just do the dance.
Well, and the interesting thing is, like, having done it a bajillion times at this point, like, there are places you can be in the area that makes it significantly easier than trying to, like, dodge everything from, one specific vantage point. So, like, it's just like every other Final Fantasy fight. There is an easier way to do it. And there's a specific dance that's going on. I mean, I also, I found it really interesting that most of the encounters felt more raid-like than traditionally a Final Fantasy dungeon would.
What do you mean by that?
They were way more mechanics heavy, instead of... And it's not just, this fight has a mechanic that you have to care about. Like, a lot of fights in the past where there's this one thing that you really have to worry about, then everything else is okay. Prime example... what's the horrible yellow poisony dungeon from 1.0 that has the Malboros in it?
1.0? 2.0.
Yeah,
I mean,
2.0.
it was also
Armvale.
1.0.
So, like, there's really that spike mechanic that, your damage goes up and then you have to, every so often, clear yourself. So there's really that one thing going on. and that's the most important thing. But like most of the fights in Stormblood,
There's another important thing in that fight. You can get bad breath.
Well, yeah, okay,
But fruits
so
clear that too. So just know when to eat a fruit.
right, but that's only like a couple things going on in a fight. Whereas there's several fights in Stormblood where there's like 3 or 4 or 5 mechanics that happen during the fight that you have to really care about.
I think that's really been going on since like Mid-Heavens Ward.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, I'm thinking I can't actually think of a fight that's more complicated than our first encounter with Nidhogg in the dungeons. I remember that fight being pretty complicated.
That fight is complicated, but the very next dungeon throws an even more complicated final boss at you.
Which one is that? Remind me.
The Vault.
Oh, right.
God, I hate the ball.
The amount of pain the Vault gives you depends on A, are you a healer? B, can your group do the dance? If you're a healer and your group can do the dance, that's a very, very easy final boss. If you're a healer and your group can't do the dance, it's an exercise in triage.
Yeah.
But between the fire chains and the AoEs on the ground and the walking chessmen and the things you have to DPS before they blow up while things are shooting line AoEs at you, there are a lot of things going on in that fight.
In the vault.
Yes.
Well, and as far as the fights I'm talking about, like one of the ones that sticks out in my mind is the Magitech Hexadrone thing in Doma Castle, where you've got lines on the ground that you can't cross, and you have to make sure you're spaced out in such a way towards the end of that fight so that you can get 2 different people in the whatever the hell that marker is called,
The
where
towers.
you basically have to the towers, that you have to stand in. So I mean that in itself,
I think it's funny they settled on that icon for that mechanic because the first time they used that icon was Bahamut.
Right.
It was in Coil, but it wasn't the Bahamut fight.
No, the first time they used that icon was the Bahamut fight. You had to stand in them for Mega Flare.
I thought that they used that in one of the other earlier,
Turn 8.
like the horrible tree thing.
In that fight, that uses a different... You have to stand by the towers, but that's a different sort of tower.
It's a different tower. It's been a while.
I don't know. Like there were just a lot of fights that felt really good to finish in this expansion, and like you got a lot of boss revenge.
Boss revenge. What do you mean by that?
Where you've encountered this person in normal quests and such, and now you get to go take them down.
Oh man, that actually leads me to a place I kind of wanted to go. You fight. Wow, I can't remember his name. What?
Grinwat?
No, that guy sucks.
Xenos?
Xenos. You have... So, there's this thing that I know drives other people crazy, that are fights you can't win. And...
Look, I was gonna win that fight if it went long enough.
Yeah, he cheated. Otherwise, I would have won it.
Well, and that's the thing, is like, I feel like in service to the story, you've got to lose sometimes. I mean... This is going to be sort of a digression, but like...
I know people hate this more, but I would rather they'd actually be strong enough to beat me.
Yes, that's kind of the problem I have. And this is not just a problem with this expansion. It's a problem in World of Warcraft. It's a problem in other games that have this person is so powerful, you can't possibly beat them, but I was doing perfectly fine until you put me into timeout with a mechanic.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, if he just punched you for half your health every time he hit you, you wouldn't have to try. You just stand there and lose. And be like, okay, well, I got through that quicker, because I stood there and lost. But, like, there's a really great storytelling thing where you have to try. You're gonna lose, but you have to try. And that's a super hard balance to hit, but... Man, do you feel it when you learn you can't win, not when you know you can't win from the start.
I think there are there are better ways I think to deal with this though.
Yeah, I mean I don't think Xenos was a great example of this. I just think that it was better than a lot, I thought, and it just got me thinking about that particular kind of thing in games.
Like
yeah, I mean
So notably, you said Xenos is cheating. So are you during all of those sequences.
It's true.
Yeah.
But that said, it still feels bad when it's like, you need to survive this fight for X minutes and then you will lose.
Right.
Like,
and that's frustrating as hell, because like during that Xenos fight, there was never a point in which I was in danger of dying. Like, it was just, I was going to grind him down eventually. And then I reached that timer and I stopped having the option of keeping on and burning him down. But like, I was absolutely winning that battle.
I guess that's the difference. As a red mage, because I'm so fragile, that was a fight that I had to really try on.
yes. Same
Well,
with
I mean,
as a
I had to
Dragoon.
try as well. I had to avoid stuff, but still, there was never a point at which my hit points were ever low.
No. That's what I mean, is that my hit points got low, and I would need to heal myself, and I had to like actually break out the red mage, like most of the red mage toolkit. And like the red mage has a pretty extensive toolkit.
90 hours. They have quite the toolkit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as a Dragoon, it's even worse because I had to like be spamming all of my healing abilities.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think that
on
may be like,
cooldown.
and I think that may be like because it doesn't detect if you are a tank or a healer, it doesn't tune the fight to be challenging for you.
Yeah, and there's a lot of shenanigans you can just get away with as a tank. Like,
Yeah. And I think
because
that,
I can constantly keep regenerating my health.
And
Like-
a healer too. I mean, there's a reason why I ended up leveling as a healer this time. I mean, I could have swapped summoner at any point, and I didn't, because it was just easier, and I was lazy.
I mean, tank is traditionally like, it is maybe a grindy way to level, but it's the easiest way to level because you're never in a situation where you're at danger of dying.
So I think it would be interesting if they managed to like give that boss a mechanic where he becomes progressively harder to deal with, and then eventually the inevitability sets in.
Well, or if they had given him a mechanic where like he is siphoning our essence away, and we get a debuff and he gets a debuff every time, or he gets a buff every time that happens.
Yeah, something like that.
To where like he's feeding off of us to make him more powerful.
And there's
But that would have given away story things.
I also think it would have been interesting if there was a point to drawing out that fight.
That's a hard balance.
Yeah.
This is sort of inspired by all the various speedruns that have gone on the past few weeks. GDQ as well. There are a lot of times where you get in a story-based fight where you're supposed to quickly win or quickly lose, or supposed to eventually lose, that speedrunners find a way to quickly lose. And I feel like if this was one of those where you were supposed to eventually lose, there's no real point to doing anything other than just standing in every AoE.
Exactly. There's a lot of fights like that where it's just like, I mean, and there's a bunch of like classic video game fights that I can think of where like you just like stand there and take it and lose and then move along.
Well, the other thing, I mean, so it could have also been portrayed as like, so here's a scenario is you are buying time for people to escape. And when everyone's escaped, then you can flee.
And that would have made sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would have been cool.
Because then it explains like, yes, this guy is just way more powerful than you. Why aren't you getting out, like, immediately?
And they sort of set that up beforehand, but it's not reinforced in the fight.
Well, yeah, and in the fight, it doesn't feel like, it just feels like we hit the arbitrary timer, and then he decided the fight was over.
Yeah.
But to some extent, that kind of fits with his personality and what he's doing all along. Is he's basically toying with us, and we're his new play toy.
I don't know, this is one of those things that I have tried to build, like personally tried to build, and it's so hard, and the payoff is so good if you get it right, and so awful if you don't. But man, I want to do it. I want to get it right. I never like stopped. I was never able to stop trying to get it.
This is your Millstone deck?
No, I mean, no, it was like...
No, I'm just saying, like, Millstone deck was that for me. Like, that one thing and that I never could actually get working correctly.
Yeah. And it was like, I had revisions of stuff like that where where someone would play it and they'd get it and they'd be like, that was the coolest thing ever. And then the next person would play it and like it was such a miserable experience for them or broke so badly for them that it wasn't worth the good. Like it wasn't worth the good experience of the one person because it was so bad for the next person. And like I totally relate to trying to pull that off.
Yeah, I mean, I guess personally, I just found it more annoying than cool. But I mean, it's because I had a vastly different experience because I was playing a tank.
Yeah.
You know the boss I'm surprised we never got to fight, really? Fordolva.
Yeah.
I
I absolutely expected to encounter her in Castrum, Albania, or whatever the last Castrum that you end up going to.
Yeah, that's who I thought was
a cop-out boss.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there are two people that boss could have been that weren't, and it was weird and less good than I think it could have been.
So there is a thing going on here that I have noticed with Final Fantasy, and so I understand why they did this. If you fight somebody in a dungeon or in a raid and you win, they are dead. Like, or they are going to die eventually, as is the case with Xenos.
Or they are a primal when they come back, but
Yeah, sure. But primals can be killed and then come back. Like, that's their mechanic. But you actually, if you kill someone in a dungeon, it was not merely a setback.
And to some extent that feels good, though.
It does.
Yeah.
And so they wanted Fordolva to be a character that continues on.
And I'm happy about that because there were a couple villains in this expansion, and she was the most interesting.
She was the best. Yes.
Like I'm really glad she's still around. And the game is very clear about reminding you that she's still around.
Interesting. I haven't noticed any post main story quest reminders of that.
Oh, I'm thinking of the end credit sequence has multiple long lingering shots of her.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, just like, hey, don't forget, you may have closed out her story 3 instances ago and like 5 quests, but she's still around.
I associate all of that in the final lead up to the game's end.
That's fair.
I think they could have made an exception for her and had her be a fight in a dungeon that, like, she could have survived. Because I kind of wanted to fight her, but I also am glad that she is a villain. Similarly, I'm very glad that Xenos is no longer around.
Yeah.
I was not a huge fan of Xenos, to be honest.
So I feel like the neutral evil, like just a straight up villain can be pretty boring. And I feel like through a lot of the expansion, Xenos was pretty boring. Because he's just like, he's ultra strong and cruel. Okay. Meh. But I do like the theme of imperial villains comparing themselves to you repeatedly and not really quite being wrong about it.
Yeah, I don't know that. Like, there are notable differences between the way you behave and the way Imperials behave. Like, you might be powerful like that.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. But I feel like there was a coherent he reminded me, and it was really only at the very end when he actually like starts giving you speeches, which admittedly was true of Gaius Van Balsar as well. But I felt like he wasn't just... I feel like you eventually find that he isn't just like super strong and super cruel. He has a worldview in which what he's doing makes sense. It's just one that you oppose. And fervently oppose. He's not just insane.
Which is also, I think, like the dichotomy of what happens with Sid and Nero. They're very similar, but they have vastly different views on how the world should work.
Yeah, and I feel like a really... I feel like Sid and Nero are a really great counterpoint, or like a really great not counterpoint, foil to your sort of semi-relationship with both Gaius and Xenos.
There were so many really cool touches in this game. Like, so there's this moment where you encounter the Imperial theme sung in part. And then as you start doing quests, you realize the turn-in noise is this theme. Why the hell is the Imperial theme the quest turn-in noise? And then finally you realize, oh shit, that theme was just the Alamegan theme that the Imperials, co-opted at some point.
Yeah.
And another thing, like when you're encountering Doman ruler that I can't remember the name of right now.
Hien?
Yes, Hien. Like, there are several times when he's talking and the Science theme from Final Fantasy VI is playing in the background.
I really liked Hien. Although, before I start that one, other thing that I really liked re-Imperials, getting a much better history of the Garlean Empire. Like, there's a real strong hint that the meta story is you are repeating history.
In what way? Because, the strong hint I always got was the Garleans are trying to repeat the Alagon history.
So, you get a bunch of background on the Garleans through various main story quests and stuff that reveals that the Garleans can't use magic at all. And because they couldn't use magic, they were driven out of their lands repeatedly by magic-using societies, to the point where they were basically crammed up in the inhospitable north, where nobody else wanted to go, so they got forced into this wasteland. And in making the life for themselves in this wasteland, they discovered ceruleum, and were able to use ceruleum to make magitech, which is the technology that they use in lieu of being able to use any magic. And with that magitech, they have come back to get revenge on all of the magic-wielding societies that basically forced them out of their lands, however long, centuries ago, by force. And it hits this interesting, how do you resolve, okay, I get what's going on with Garlemald. How do you resolve that problem? Is the answer just, keep hitting them in the face and shatter them again and drive them, and break their empire and drive them into the inhospitable north again? Is that the solution?
I will say I did not get that impression from any of the quests I did, but I did not do all the quests.
I got it as well.
There's a really long sequence where the scientist is talking that reveals a whole lot of that.
Yeah, it's during when Kryl is being put away.
Yeah. And as soon as you have that, there's a bunch of other stuff that you can find that delves deeper into that. And I find that really, really interesting.
I mean, I find it interesting that adds a whole other dimension to the Garleans, other than just these monolithic, cartoon bad guys.
Yeah, exactly. There's a story behind the evil empire, and you get the story behind the evil empire at the point where you are putting the screws to the evil empire.
That said, it's not like I'm going to feel sorry for the evil empire, because they are still an evil empire.
Exactly, and that's why I think it's such an interesting that's why I think it's such an interesting story, because it's, how do you resolve that? Do you just perpetuate a cycle of violence?
I may have tried not taking over all lands outside of their empire.
It's true. They could have tried that.
But that's the thing, is what are the lands outside of the empire?
The lands where people are currently living that aren't in the empire.
And that's the thing, is what about all of the lands that they were driven out of 100 years ago? That are now occupied by the magic wielding people that drove them out to begin with. They are sorry, you guys are screwed. Your ancestral homelands are ours now. Go back into the cold, frozen wasteland north where you came from.
Honestly, you're taking over them with war machines? No, not okay.
Yeah,
even if they used to be yours.
Exactly, and that's the thing. That's the thing that I find so interesting, is there's a whole lot of back and forth story that is oh, hey, some of the stuff done by...
Have you tried diplomacy?
Yeah, I want to know more about that story, because I want to know, did they try diplomacy? Did that happen? What happened? What caused them to get driven out of their lands by the magic wielding populace?
Maybe they've just always been assholes.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to get rid of them.
Yeah, maybe that was deserved.
So a lot of the recent Crusade, though, seems like they are deeply afraid of primals.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're taking over these areas to take down primals.
Yes, because primals are what defeated them.
That is Gaius' entire MO.
Yeah, like
unfortunately, he's willing to go to unfortunate steps to, get rid of all the primals. Like, if there are no more beast tribes, if we kill them all, there won't be any more primals.
Yeah.
Again, not okay.
Clearly, we changed that thing. Like, humans are not a beast tribe, but they summoned a primal.
I mean, yes. We now know a lot more about primals than we did during our Realm Reborn storyline.
Yes. But I also feel like it's likely that Gaius knew that too, and it retroactively makes his story make more sense. Like what he is doing in service to trying to stop this problem is unconscionable.
Makes him even worse of a villain.
Yeah.
As far as what he's trying to accomplish.
Yeah, exactly. Like very, very rarely do I encounter a story where I find out more where I find out stuff that makes a previously defeated and gone villain deeper. Like that's such an interesting. Like Gaius is so much.
There's not really a whole lot of indication that Garlemald knows that though, because they are surprised by it during Heaven's Ward.
That's fair.
I think this hits on something that's the most interesting about Final Fantasy XIV is like this is a living, breathing world. There is a chronology that is happening as we go through this content, and like to some extent, we are creating legends that will show up in previous or in follow-up games. So the fact that we find out more information about stuff that we did in 2.0 totally makes sense in that sort of setting where you're just keep adding to interesting stuff in the world. Like you're building this giant narrative that includes us, it includes all these characters that we've encountered, but it's not necessarily a linear narrative. It doesn't only go in one direction.
Yeah. I think it'd be fascinating if, at some point in the future, we take the fight to Garlemald and like invade the Garlean Empire to stop them and find a whole bunch of really scared innocent people who think that this is history happening again. Like they're not part of the Garlean military, they're civilians. We've only interfaced with the Garlean military. We haven't met any Garlean civilians. What are they like?
I mean, it seems unlikely that we would be driving that direction, but maybe.
You mean like stopping the Garlean Empire, or
trying to topple their capital?
Yeah, but a very realistic thing is like the only way to have the capital city safe is to move the border back, sort of situation where you just keep fighting to give yourself some more clearance so that your cities are a little bit safer. Like I could see us ending up in Garlemald, absolutely, because like we've taken over Alamigo at this point. Where are we going to stop? Because now we have two new nations to join in, the alliance. Like at what point do we tip the balance and are now the dominant power?
When do we stop liberating people and start invading?
Yeah. Like I think those are decisions that are gonna play out at some point. I mean, the very real walls between the territories have functionally fallen at this point.
There's still a really big gap between Doma and... There's like a big Garlean-held gap between Doma and Alamigo, even liberated, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Like there is a lot of space.
Yeah, the Garlean Empire is still enormous.
I mean, there's a giant clouded section of the map that we know nothing about.
Yeah.
Yes. As well as some parts that we do know some things about that we haven't gone to yet. Like whatever the hell's Razanhan is.
Isn't that where really great cooking supplies come from? No, quenching oil.
Quenching oil.
And sand.
Yeah. Sand that is presumably different from all of the other sand everywhere else.
It's the specialist sand ever.
On the topic of villainous organizations, there are some characters that I could have done with a lot less of / without entirely. I don't know what... I feel like Grinwat's story was going for compelling and didn't hit the mark.
I feel bad for Grinwat.
I was actually, like, I hated that dude, and then I actually felt bad about killing him.
Yeah.
He did
does
not have a
like,
good end.
the worst timing, but he does not have a good end.
No, he's got a terrible end.
Well, the thing is like, he's played for laughs the entire time.
Basically, up until his boss fight, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then his boss fight is super depressing.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, and that was sort of what I was getting at. Is I feel like I wish he hadn't been played for laughs, because I think that arc would have been more poignant, because he's like, it was really like, haha, this guy again, oh god, haha, this guy again, and then, oh god, what? Ugh.
He at least makes for a fun boss fight.
I do not hate his boss fight. I hate the second boss of that instance, but not him.
What, the
magic thingy.
The Magitech Scorpion?
Yeah, the
Wait.
second one.
I just want one of those as a mount.
I feel like you're predisposed to hate that one because of attacking when its tail's up.
I thought that was in a different instance.
That is in a different
Is
instance.
it?
Yeah,
That's a different instance.
that's in the 5th instance.
Romania, I think.
I thought the Magic Scorpion was in... The Magitech Scorpion is in...
It's in the one that's in the expert roulette.
Yeah, it's in the
Oh.
capital city one.
Yeah, let me go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Right.
Greenwood is the boss of.
No.
No.
No, Greenwatch
no.
is the boss of Doma Castle.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Man, it's all blurred together. Anyway.
The two
There's a-
bosses before him are both Magitech contraptions, so I can see how you would imagine that.
Yeah. There's a lot of Magitech bosses, and they all kind of blur together. Oh, the one with the spiky wheels guy.
Yes.
Yeah, that boss is super annoying, but as Belle said, I would ride as a mount.
Yeah.
It looks,
That was the one I think I was talking about earlier with
It
like
is, yeah.
the towers, yeah.
I actually don't like that boss.
As a tank, it sucks, because you basically need to take a tower, and that means you're going to get split off from the rest of your party somewhere else on the map.
That also looks like the Blitzball machine in FF10 a lot.
I have zero interest in them bringing Blitzball to Final Fantasy XIV.
Have they said they are going to?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Well.
Probably, I would guess, in the Ruby Sea.
I have no idea.
All right, so something I do want to talk about with this instance is this instance introduced swimming and underwater, and I actually really like it.
I don't know if I really like it, but I don't hate it, which is a
Step
significant
up.
mark in its favor.
It helps that it never asks you to engage in combat while you are swimming around.
Yes.
That's an important distinction.
I love it.
I guess I'm weirdly conflicted about this, because I enjoy how chill underwater everything is, but I also feel like there's largely not much of a point to it because there is no combat.
I have found that there's occasionally you will find really neat stuff underwater, but also there's a lot of empty space there. It would certainly be more livened up if there were creatures there, and more stuff being active. But it's really pretty, it's very chill, and I mean, I don't necessarily hate underwater combat in other games. I mean, I'm one of those weirdos that was fine in Vestir in World of Warcraft. I liked it somewhat, but it can still be annoying to have the extra dimension of spatial awareness, and I'm relieved that they didn't bother trying to do that here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's weird that you swim around underwater and then fight sharks on land, but
Yeah.
They're perfectly fine with swimming up against you underwater, and they don't care.
they don't care. But,
I mean, I do like all the little caves and stuff that you can go into underwater.
I like the underwater society. I like the aura underwater.
oh man, I am never Fantasiaing out of an aura after this expansion. I love
the ones on land more.
I liked both of them a lot.
See, and I kind of hope that they'll do this with future expansions where they teach us more about the races of Eorzea, because this was super awesome. We got to see significant cultural touchstones of both.
I feel like we've gotten Elezen,
There
Lalafell.
are a few we have never seen. We know
Yeah.
basically nothing about the Duskrite Elezen.
That's true.
You know basically nothing about the Keepers of the Moon, Mikote.
That's also true.
You know very little about the Plainsfolk Lalafell. The
Well,
Doomsfolk are what's all over Olga.
Right.
And to be fair, like we know some stuff about ancient Lalafell history, but like we also I don't feel like we know a lot about ancient Lalafell history. Lalafell are kind of like this super adaptive race that can deal with pretty much anything. So they're all over the place because
So you're saying they grow like weeds?
They grow like weeds, like wild potatoes. But I mean, like most of the races of Eorzea could do with some fleshing out.
I mean, I'm ready for my Alrogadame expansion. That's fine.
Yeah.
But like Rogadin are equally, plentiful in the world.
Seawolves are pretty common. Elsgard are pretty not. Seawolves are the ones with the unpronounceable names mostly.
Yes.
And what is the other ones?
Names that are
2 words
things?
put together.
Yeah, two words.
Hoary Boulder.
Usually something in nature. Hoary Boulder, Curious Gorge. I have lost track of where we were in the thread of discussing the plot, though.
I don't think we really talked about my favorite character, the guy we meet in Kugane.
Which one?
Lord Lolorito's advisor.
Oh.
Man, how did I know that?
Oh my god, that guy is hilarious. Mostly because he is completely unprepared for what is about to happen to him.
He is unprepared for Tataru.
He is
Basically.
totally unprepared for Tataru.
Also, Kimono Tataru is adorable.
Yes.
Tataru is ambitious, yo.
Lalafells are all pretty ambitious.
I think it's a survival trait.
But yes, so you get to Kugane, and Lord Lolorito has a trading company there, and yeah, he's here to help. It's his way of apologizing for stabbing you in the back so many times.
Yeah. I love the comment that he makes, though. He's like, yeah, and because it's Lord Lolorito, he doesn't really believe in words, so he's going to provide material compensation, because that's what he believes in.
I mean, okay, sure, that is actually what he believes in.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Like, this is as heartfelt an apology as it's possible to get from him. Like, him actually using his wealth to help us out.
I feel like Lalafell in general is this grand history of people underestimating them and then getting the worst of that bargain.
I mean, like, I'm not inclined to trust Lolorito anymore. No. But yeah, I'll accept his apology.
Anyways, you are here, and you are trying to deal with the fact that you can't get to Doma because it's sort of been blockaded. It's been blockaded by pirates, and nobody can pay the pirates because it's illegal to do that now, and nobody wants to mess with the Empire. I don't know. This is a bit of the point when things started picking up for me.
I agree.
And then soon you get to meet the army that is least prepared to join battle against anyone because they don't understand what armor is.
Who?
You're referring to pirates?
Confederacy. Yeah, the Confederacy. They're not really ready for battle, just saying.
Just because somebody doesn't wear heavy armor doesn't mean they aren't ready for battle, Bell.
Seriously, like, I'm pretty sure that they were in fact prepared for battle because they fired a bunch of guns from their ships from forever away. It is the
firepower is in fact one way of conducting battle.
It is the Merlwyb approach, and I greatly approve of the Merlwyb approach.
Look, Merlwyb also has marauders.
I'm not sure Merlwyb has marauders so much as Merlwyb draws marauders to her.
The Yellow Jackets are marauders working directly for Merlwyb.
Are they? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
I don't really know anything about marauders.
She directly has an accompaniment of marauders.
In addition to just drawing some, because that's the thing she does, she also employs a whole bunch.
I would point out that the Yellow Jackets don't wear heavy armor either.
They do
Just
not.
throwing that out there.
They probably should, though.
I'm just saying, you might be a little bit biased towards
A certain style
heavy
of
armor.
warfare.
Yes.
We do, shortly after trying to leave Kugane and get into Doma, meet my least favorite character from this expansion. Like, I am not a fan of Yatsuyu.
Agreed. I really, really dislike that character.
Yeah.
And And the thing that they did that I think was supposed to try to humanize her did the opposite.
I mean,
Yes.
she's a pile of cliches.
Yes. Oh my god. Yes, it's a giant pile of cliches and
In
really
a game that otherwise does pretty good about avoiding these, she just is all of them at once.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, I thought for a second you meant Gosetsu and wondered what in the world you were talking about.
No,
Oh, man.
Gosetsu is amazing, but we'd met Gosetsu way before then.
True.
Gosetsu is best Setsu.
It was really funny because at the end of Doma Castle, when everything all falls apart, I think I just run that with Kodra, and I was like, man, I don't actually think that either Gosetsu or Yatsu is dead. Like, way before we got to the end of the story. I feel vindicated for having been right.
We're gonna get into this one then, because you were right, and I don't know if that makes it better.
Yes, agreed. I mean, yeah.
Because you were right, like, he wasn't actually dead, but the story presented him as dead after the most cliched period of this guy is going to die.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
And, like-
yes, he contemplates his death more than Galuf does.
Yeah, like, I'm going to contemplate how I'm going to die over and over and over again, and then spoilers, I'm going to die. Like, I'm going to talk about how this is my last battle and everything, and it's like, you're laying it on so thick.
Yeah.
And it's like, they know how to kill off a main character and make it weighty. They did it with harsh font.
I feel like they may have been trying to avoid just doing harsher font again, though. Like, at the exact same point in the story, in the exact same kind of way. Like, I sort of appreciate that they're not just reusing that mechanism.
I mean, they couldn't have given us a cool shield, so obviously he's going to survive.
I mean, he could have given you a cool sword.
It's true. But yeah, like, I mean, I think that it would have lost something if it had just been like, oh, predictably, in the, second to last major dungeon of the expansion, a main character dies who's been following you around the whole time.
Sure, but they still presented him as dead.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, is that they didn't need to have that happen. Like, or they could have really subverted, if they wanted to do that, they could have subverted it harshly by having, like, Hien die nobly in that dungeon.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did not like the story then, and then, like, finding out that he's actually not dead, retcons don't feel great. And that feels like, oh, hey, he's actually dead.
I mean, you never saw the body. He was
Yeah.
never actually dead.
I mean, that was the thing that made me initially think, no, he's not actually dead. Because, like, all this buildup and then they didn't find the body, I think that were it anybody other than Gosetsu, I would think it was very stupid that he was still alive. I think that there is an interesting story that can be told from Gosetsu's point of view, where he has in his mind committed a wrong, atoned for it, and should have died as part of the atonement and doesn't, and is now a person very bound by their place in the world who doesn't have a place in the world anymore. And I think that's an interesting identity crisis for Gosetsu to have. I don't know if that's where they're going to go with it, but I think there's some potentially interesting stuff there that is, like, very specific to Gosetsu as a character, from all of the conversations you have with him, like philosophical conversations you have with him throughout the Azim Steppe, where, like, you see the depth of how seriously he takes what he sees as his role and his place in the world, and how important it is that he uphold what he sees as his place in the world. And, like, a lot of the sort of overwrought drama leading up to the end of Doma Castle is kind of reinforcing that he's part of the reason he's okay with it is because for him it is fulfilling the role that he feels like he should take in the world. And, then not actually having that is, like I said, potentially an interesting identity crisis. Now, what Yatsu is doing there, who knows?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I'm actually pretty glad that Gutsetsu is still alive, but, like, Yatsuo,
I'm afraid they're setting up for a redemption arc for her, and I don't want her to be part of our team.
No, I don't want her to be part of anything. I am over her. I wish she would have stayed dead.
Yeah. Her whole like, hey, I was abused as a kid. It is such a common trope.
Yeah.
And it just leads to people thinking that if you were abused, like, maybe you'll become an abuser too. Like,
Right.
it stigmatizes that.
Something bad happened to you, and now you're a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it just, she's just a bundle of tired tropes. And I feel like her whole arc would have been better if you didn't get that background. If she was just insanely evil and you never found out why.
Yep. I agree.
And I think that there's a great like conversation to be, there's a great series of conversations to be had there where like Hien, the like honorable good person, is really bothered by the fact that he doesn't ever find out and can't ever find out why she became so hateful and evil. And like there's a great moment for Alice or somebody similar to just be like, look, that can't stop you. Whatever the reason isn't important. She was awful and had to be stopped. There's no explanation that's gonna redeem her for you. Don't even follow. Like I think that's a really interesting conversation that could have been had versus I don't even know what was going on with that scene. Let me tell you about my tragic past and also haha, I was stalling for time. What?
So
I mean, I feel like Fordola is an alternate take on that character done much better.
Yes, agreed.
Well, but Fordola actually has like Fordola in her mind is trying to do the right thing. I don't think Yatsuyu in her mind is trying to do the right thing.
No, Yatsuyu is just she's a sociopathic narcissist. Like she only cares about her and is interested in harming as many other people as possible because that's how she gets her kicks. And like that's really all you need to know.
Yeah.
There's no backstory that makes that sympathetic in any way. Alternately, I suppose there is a quote unquote redemption arc in the like very traditional Japanese storytelling sense of the term, but I sort of don't think that they would go that way.
That seems kind of unlikely.
Yeah, kind of not their style.
I don't know. She just came across too much as evil Cinderella.
Evil Cinderella?
Yeah, I mean, because like, okay, so think about Cinderella and like the way that she was abused by the wicked stepsisters and things like that.
Oh, I was going to her shoes. Okay.
No, it's just like it's an evil spin on that whole thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work at all.
No, it really doesn't. I was also less than thrilled to see Estinian return for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, what? Why? No.
Because
Go
he
away.
was not dead, and we left him in a state of he still, had some power and is still a dragoon.
There are dragons about. For whatever dragoons are doing.
He was chasing a giant dragon, okay?
Yeah,
he was doing like his job.
He was doing the one cool thing a dragoon could be doing in that expansion. Ask me about their dragoon class quest.
I'd really rather not.
I feel like the class quests were really hit or miss in Heavensward and are also really hit or miss here.
It was just dumb for warriors. Just dumb.
Dark Knight was really cool this time.
That's good.
Scholar was super silly.
Dragoon was very silly.
It's weird that they went for silly in the class quests. Like that's what I've heard from a lot of people is that silly is where they went with it.
Tragic is definitely where they went for the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
After an expansion of, well, I guess 50 to 60 was also tragic, but had silly in it. This one didn't have any silly in it.
I feel like for as little time as they have to set up the Red Mage story, they did a really good job of it. You really only have 10 quests to set up and tell the Red Mage storyline, but the two arcs that you get, I thought like they're not epic or super exciting or whatever, but they have a couple of interesting characters, and it was like a couple of interesting characters that are well characterized. I got a sense of them, and I'm kind of interested to see more of them.
I mean, the samurai does a pretty decent job of telling you about the sekigumi or whatever they're called in Kugane.
That would be cool. I need to play more samurai.
And they're absolutely, the 13 court guard squads from Bleach. Just saying.
I'm so glad I don't know what that is, because you would probably ruin it for me.
No, it's just, I mean, yeah, like your starter outfit looks just like the default outfit of the Soul Reapers from Bleach.
I don't know. I got to watch a Lalafell fall in love with a Tomberry.
Wow. Is that what the scholar was doing?
Mm-hmm.
So what was the summoner doing in the meantime?
Really bad ideas.
Really, really bad ideas. Playing with a magical talking book, which is actually really fun, but again, also silly and bad ideas, because summoners are super bad ideas.
Summoners are super bad ideas.
I was helping a whelpling try and find its mom.
I was confronting the shades of everyone I had ever killed.
I was finding a date for Curious Gorge.
Well,
I was helping somebody who was possessed generate enough power. I was training somebody.
Doesn't sound like a good idea either.
I was training somebody to become better at wielding immense amounts of power before realizing they were possessed. And yeah,
that was your little 60 quest, huh?
Yep. The 50 to 60 red mage followed by the 60 to 70 red mage. It was like a direct sequel, which I thought was interesting. I don't know how many class stories. Like I felt
that's
like
what Astrologian does. From
That's what
30
that's
to
what
50
Samurai.
Okay.
Samurai's that way too.
That makes sense.
Dragoon was kind of a direct sequel. Dragoon is really weird this expansion, though, because what are Dragoons doing now that the Dragon Song War is over?
Jumping.
Being awesome and jumping on stuff.
We're jumping. Yeah.
I mean, there's a giant dragon they could have been chasing.
Yeah, but the only Dragoon anyone cares about had to do that.
I feel like they're caring about the wrong Dragoon.
What are you talking about? Everyone loves Estinian, right?
Captain Edgelord is not my fan.
Seems to be a little better now. Except for the part where he's still carrying a weapon. Yeah, no. Maybe he's not that much better.
No.
He's still very broody.
He's still pretty annoying.
I sort of love to be annoyed by him. Like, he's not my favorite character, but I sort of like that he's around. It's like, what's going on here? Oh, you again.
Yep.
Oh, Estinian, you've come along just in time to hate everything and grouse about it.
I like actually getting to see some characters in action that we don't normally get to see in action. That was really neat. Like, the Grand Companies all come together and like their leaders actually fight in battles.
Well, two of them we already knew could fight in battles.
Yeah.
You mean so Kani Senna fights in a battle, you mean?
Well, you also see a bunch of other people fight in battles, and that's cool, because it's cool to see them do their thing. But also seeing Kane Senna, like, actually do something is pretty great. Because I'm sort of unclear on what she actually does, but apparently she casts a whole bunch of spells.
Great magical power is the thing she does.
I haven't seen a lot of evidence of that, is all I'm saying.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that in any conflict where it's necessary for her to actually cast Holy, we don't want to be there.
I mean, she's got all the goat children to help her out.
I'm not convinced they do a whole lot either, to be entirely fair, other than throw shade on me constantly.
I've done the White Mage Quest 250, so I'm not sure they do anything either.
No.
Oh, so this expansion had one of my favorite solo instances. The Azim Steps.
Oh,
yes,
man,
that was amazing.
And I kind of want to talk about that because I want more of this. I want, like, combat adventures with alternate objectives you're trying to accomplish.
Yes.
That was sweet.
I mean, that Azim Steps in general were really cool.
Despite the fact that zone strongly resembles the Calm Land from FF10, it was probably one of my favorite zones from this expansion.
I The Azium Steppes is the epitome of, or going into it, it was the epitome of all of the trope, the like, I don't know, cliche, tribal MMO zones that I'm so tired of. But by the end of it, it was awesome. I really, really liked that zone. I do not get much into the join and learn about all of these tribes. People think they're savages, but they're actually not. Like, I'm
okay. We've done that 20 times now.
Yes, and I don't really like that messaging either. But like, the Azium Steppes was great. It introduced to me a whole bunch of characters and a surprisingly stable form of governance that just didn't look like a thing we're familiar with. It won. You were talking about the thing at the end, which I can't remember the name of.
The Nodum.
The Nodum. The thing that endeared me to the Azium Steppes completely was we win the Nodum. Like the two others who have been actively hating on us the entire time, we win the Nodum. And what I'm expecting is the ever so common tired trope of, well, the strong ones say actually no, and you got to fight them again. But no, at the end of the Nodum, it's like, oh well, you won. We'll
get you next time.
Yeah, we'll get you next time when elections happen. As far as elections happen in the Azium Steppes, it's like, oh, huh, and then we're gonna prove that by fighting this guy who just showed up.
Yeah, Grinwad takes that opportunity to show up just after you get the cooperation of the entire Azium Steppe.
Whoops.
Because his timing is just that good.
And then they're like genuinely excited to go siege Doma Castle because those are the orders from on high. I'm like, that's really, I find that really cool.
Also, those two should suck it up and just kiss.
That one guy would have to get over himself first.
Yeah.
I get immense joy when he gets shut down.
I'm just convinced he's picking the wrong targets.
I also, for as much of a shrinking violet as Serena is when you first meet her, she's awesome. Like, she just steps up. She's like, okay, well, this is what we're doing now. Guess I'm the ruler. Here we go. and it doesn't feel like a weird character shift. Like, it's completely in keeping with her character. It's just circumstances have changed, and she's prepared for circumstances to have changed. She didn't think they were going to, but they did, and now she's ready for it. And like, that's so cool. I like that character a lot.
And I will say, I'm sure they were trying very hard to do their best with this while also putting it in because it's a constant MMO joke, but the collect the poop quest still doesn't work.
Like, yes. Like, look, MMO devs, stop. It wasn't funny when WoW did it. It wasn't funny when WoW did it again and again and again and again. It's still not funny now.
I feel like the absolute worst zone was the locks.
I didn't have too much problem with the locks until I tried to unlock flight.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the locks as a zone was actually okay, but the locks as a place that I had to run around and try to get all of the points for flying was not okay.
Well, the locks more than anything just felt like this speed bump. Because, like, at that point, it's introduced so late in the game that you're on the cusp of beating the game, and now you've got this huge zone that you can't fly in.
Well, I mean, it is not... I'm just thinking, like, if you go there at level 69 for the first time, after you beat the dungeon in the peaks, so you're probably not level 69. But Azazla was also introduced that late, but Azazla was a rather different sort of thing, not just another zone in Yerbanya.
Yeah, Azazla was actually almost impossible to not get flying
Also
by the time you had gone through all of the quests.
It is completely impossible because all of the quests are, the only Aether Currents are on the storyline quest.
Right, I forgot that. I actually haven't done hardly anything in the locks because I just ended the game and then was like, whatever. I haven't gotten flying in that zone yet.
Like, it's the third zone in Yerbanya, and it does have a giant body of water in it, but other than that, it's not that different from the other two. So it's not like an exciting new place to be in either.
Well, I mean, and it seems particularly hard to traverse. Much the same as Dravinian. Is it Dravinian Hinterlands?
Dravinian Hinterlands is the one with two sides.
Yeah. Okay, that one was also particularly hard to traverse at times.
So what did you guys think of the primals in this one?
I really enjoyed them.
Yeah,
I like them because they're very different.
I think they were both really different. They were a little weirdly placed. Like, they kind of appear in weird ways, but I still like them a lot.
I think Lakshmi is one of the more interesting fights.
I like the spectacle of, what's his name? Of Susanoo. There's a lot of cool spectacle going on with him.
I don't know what's going on with the turtle people. Or even if they are turtle people.
I love the music that leads into Susanoo. The quiet, intense thrumming that is in that zone. Because you're doing like a break-in, so they put break-in music on.
You are told there are 3 treasures, and that one of them is a sword. Which means if you paid attention to Japanese media, you instantly know what the other 2 are. And I was wondering when they were going to send us to search for those. And then you entered the vault, then...
They're all there!
They already are there!
Surprise.
And then there's the last primal. Shinryu, I have yet to wipe off.
You are lucky.
You.
I hate you.
Wow.
So the other night when we one-shot it, I had spent an entire timer worth of time with Cecilia wiping on Shinryu.
I've spent entire timers wiping on Shinryu.
I've spent
Although my first
multiple
3 times in there,
Yeah.
I one-shot it.
So what happened then, Ash? Did you like trials roulette?
I trials rouletted into it.
Ooh.
It took me 5 failed tries before we got it on the 6th.
Yep.
Sounds about right.
Failed full timer tries, too.
This is not... Like, maybe you canceled at the last 10 minutes because there's literally not enough time to do a try, but...
So what... Okay, because I have yet to do it with a group that just fail-boated. What gets people on this fight?
Everything.
What doesn't get people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Earth Breath can kill a bunch of people if it's screwed up. Tidal Wave can kill your entire party if it's screwed up.
Meteors can kill people. Not picking up the ads can kill people. Leaving the big ads up too long to where the tank is taking too much damage from whatever that drop attack is.
Yeah, tank's not repositioning that frontal cone to not kill people.
Yep.
I've probably died more times on the ad phase than any other time, actually.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, because the ads...
Poor placement of the Earth thing.
Ads do seem pretty rough.
The big ads have death sentence in addition to their frontal cone.
Yeah.
They are, like, if both of them are up and one tank is tanking both of them, and the DPS is not excellent, that tank is probably going down.
Yeah, it's rough. It is painful.
The other thing is people go in there without doing their level 70 class quest.
Well, that wouldn't matter much for a Dragoon.
But it does because you get a 290 left side. And that's your set. Vitality is on those pieces.
Oh, 290 on the left side. Yeah. You get your entire class set. Right.
Yeah, it's a pretty big boost for that fight. I think it was, like, I don't know, when I did it, it was still very early in the expansion. Like, just everyone was sort of bottlenecked there. And it was just painful for several days.
Yeah, my first time was a one-shot. I've gone in to help other people and one-shot it. And I've been in Trials Roulette, and it's been some painful fight.
Yeah.
Like, traditionally, I will go in there and let everybody try and cold try it first, because it's the sort of fight that's too hard to really explain off the bat if you've never seen it.
It's a really extreme example of stay out of the stuff.
It's just so much is going on, and like...
Stay out of the stuff and kill the big ads first.
My biggest problem with it is the RNG element that it has.
There are not large RNG elements in that fight.
I don't feel like
there
that fight
are
has
large RNG elements, because the order in which they do the
There's
abilities...
always one thing or a different thing.
Yeah.
It's always Quake or Aerial Blast. It's always Judgment Bolt or Inferno. It's always Diamond Dust or Tidal Wave.
Yeah. It's what he's doing is really consistent. He's just doing a lot of things.
There's a lot of this or that.
Well, but even that, like, there's certain sequences that can screw you worse than others. So I'm like, if you don't have enough blocks to stand on,
or Diamond Dust or Tidal Wave both put water on the platform. So the next one is going to be Judgment Bolt or Inferno. So you either need to get in or stay out.
I think the one that can screw you, the one that can screw you really, really bad, is Diamond Dust into Earth Cones.
Yeah,
but they don't happen until all the ice is gone.
Yeah, I don't think that's that bad. Honestly, like, on the last phase, the tidal wave is incredibly bad once you get late in that phase and a bunch of tiles are missing and then everyone gets blown off the side. I've wiped to that several times.
Well, and honestly, the worst thing is, like, when people are missing tails. Like, you have to get those tails. You have to get those tails, or you're not moving the fight fast enough, and you're going to get more... Well, it seems like you get more Akmorns if you miss tails.
I think part of Akmorn that some people are missing is that in addition to the part on the tank, there's also a stationary thing you can move out of. I've seen the off-tank die to that a few times, because it looks very similar to the actual effect on the tank.
Well, and that's honestly like why I started marking tanks with the "don't go near the tank" symbol. Because the worst thing is, like, when the tanks are getting Akmorned and a DPS drops the other thing on top of the tanks. That's happened to me. I mean, Akmorn is still terrifying. Like getting Akmorn cast still makes me clinch everything and just pray that it's going to work.
I, as a scholar, really love the addition of excogitation. Because it means when I know that is coming, I can slap it on the tank and they won't die.
I love that because there's a lot of times when I have it on me, like, I don't know, there's one of the things that healers do, and I don't know which healer does it, but, like, if I've got this thing up, I'm not barely taking any damage from the Akmorn at all.
Like, Excog, it puts a buff on you when your health dips. It's not below half. It is
below half.
Is it half? It never feels like it's half. It feels like it has to go below half, but that's probably just my stupid perception of it. But anyway, when your health goes below half, it triggers, and it was kind of comparable to Lustrate, and now it's
slightly better than Lustrate, and now it's like double Lustrate.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's like way better than Lustrate. So it is a nice button to use. It is a nice cushion.
That may be the thing that I see every so often, where, like, I'm in the middle of an Akmorn and I'll drop down to like half and then instantly drop right back up to full.
Yep.
Yeah, that's probably what's happening.
Yeah, it's great.
Pretty great spell.
It also works as an emergency heal if you don't precast it.
It has a cooldown that sort of encourages you to not use it for that, though, right?
Yeah, it does. But still, there are times when you don't care about that.
The changes to Warrior have done weird things to the way I play. Like, there's a lot of times when I'm sitting on Beast Gauge because I know I'll need Inner Beast as a damage soak, where I didn't maybe used to do that in the past because of Beast Gauge decay.
I have not put any time into Warrior since the expansion, actually. So it seems like it would be nice to be able to stock double what we could before.
Right, it is. Very much so. Especially, like, if you know a huge pack is coming in, being able to 2 Steel Cyclones in a row really helps a lot. Like, especially on that giant dog pack in Alamigo.
Yeah.
I just let it all come in and then Steel Cyclone twice, and I basically own all of it. I guess my only complaint about Stormblood is it feels like I've capped out early, or am close at risk of capping out early.
What do you mean?
In that, like, I'm quickly reaching the point where I am as geared as I can be.
That is already not true.
Yeah, I was about to say we should
Just
do
330 gear just came out. One
Alice
Tombstone.
Savage.
Right, like without Savage.
No. 330 gear just came out on the new Tombstones.
Tombstones.
They wanted you to get to 320 very quickly.
Yes.
I mean, I would like to get to Savage, do more Savage.
Yes.
Any of it.
I want to take some time to talk about Omega because I was not a huge fan of Alexander, and Omega is everything I want. I am so happy with this new raid concept.
I feel weird about Omega because I like it, but it's also way more boring fights for the tanks so far.
Well,
we should do Savage.
Yeah, everything is easier than Alex was.
Well, I mean, Alex normal for tanks had a lot of interesting things going on, even in
we should do
the first.
Savage. Like, that's the thing is they wanted Omega to be a lot more accessible than Alexander was.
In basically all respects. So Savage is also easier than Savage Alexander.
Savage is easier than Savage Alexander, and Omega Normal is easier than Alexander Normal, which means Omega Normal is a little undertuned for us. Is Halicarnassus not that interesting for tanks?
Halicarnassus is pretty freaking boring.
No, it's boring. Like so the off tank does exactly one thing during the
off tank
fight.
is to pick up the gold dragon.
Oh, that's it. That's once you've picked that up,
and once you've done that, you are a DPS for the rest of the fight. And every point before that.
And if you
Except
know
you need to stand on the blue tile.
Right, if you know where to put the dragon, you're a hero because you're like instantly better than 99% of all tanks.
Where do you think the dragon should go?
Way the hell off from the rest of the party, pointed away.
I mean, the pointed away part is the important bit.
It really is.
I literally just drag it straight over so that its butt is parked on one of the middle two tiles, and I am technically standing on of the last tile. Yeah, so it's overlapping, so the DPS can literally just turn around and blow it up, and then go right back to Halicarnassus or whatever word that's hard to say.
So I feel like even being a DPS on that fight is pretty interesting. There is a lot of dancing to do.
Like, literally, of Omega, the only fight that requires an off tank is Omega or X-Death.
That's not true. The first fight also requires an off tank.
Okay, so technically it has something for the off tank to do, but like there's been several times I've pugged it and a DPS is soaked, and we've been just fine.
That particular DPS may or may not have been fine.
It
didn't matter.
I can eat a twin bolt and live.
Yeah,
sure,
no, like I've
seen
a Dragoon do it, and I've seen Samurais eat it just fine. And I mean, it's not the end of the world. Like the only thing that has a really required second tank is X-Death.
That's also not actually true. I have single tank that fight.
It probably hurts a hell of a lot after a while.
It's true, it does. With clever use of cooldowns, you can survive the 2-stack Thunder 3s.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if I have anything that can make me hit it at the right time to keep a third stack from coming back on.
Oh, it only stacks to 2.
Oh, it only ever stacks to 2?
It only stacks to 2.
Oh, okay. Well, that's manageable. I thought it kept stacking after that. And it's painful at 2.
It is painful at 2. You're not supposed to take one at 2.
But, like, 1 has the 1 split damage thing. 2 has absolutely nothing for an off tank.
2 has nothing.
3, you pick a thing up.
It has a single ad, which can be picked up by the main tank.
Yeah, like I could do it as a main tank without much issue. I just have to reposition a little bit. And then X-Death, in theory, has a better use of 2 tanks, but
it is a fight designed with tank swap in mind, and is much smoother with 1.
Whereas, like, Alex 1 had a really cool tank swap.
Well, Alex 1 didn't have a tank swap, but you needed 2 tanks because there were 2 things you needed to keep apart. Alex 1 is the
well, yeah,
the
not a tank swap. It was the second tank pick it up as it was coming in. Yeah, when it hit like half health, and then you had to dance just right to keep the 2 apart at all times. Because there was a piece where you had to switch sides.
Not if you're doing it right.
Oh.
They go up into the air and they come down usually like both in the center. But if your tanks go back to either end, you're still fine.
Yeah.
You might be thinking of Bismarck, where you have to keep the things separate and tank swap it sometimes, and switch sides and stuff like that.
I haven't gotten a chance to do any of the Savage or EX primals, so I'm looking forward to it. But I don't know.
I'm in the same boat.
Pretty excited.
Yeah, Susanoo EX is really fun. Like, I enjoyed it greatly.
Lakshmi EX, I know you really don't like it so far, but I thought it was easier.
Lakshmi is bullshit for the tanks.
I have not done that one.
Like, it is horrible for the tanks.
And Omega 1 Savage is pretty fun.
How different is it?
I mean, it's very similar, but it is a very specific order of thing, and they are incredibly deadly with way less margin for error. And some other like tricky things, like some of the AoEs are bigger. Clamp actually matters, and it doesn't have a telegraph anymore. Just like some things like that. It was fun.
Remember how if you're in the center, downburst kills you instantly?
Mm-hmm.
Well, on Savage, that fight also doesn't have a railing.
So you have to be very close, but not in the center.
Correct. Other things like that have similarly tiny margins for error.
And again, when you're sliding around on the ice, there's no railing.
Ooh, yeah. That sounds like a fun fight.
It is. I think it's pretty fun. I'm looking forward to doing it with an actual group and not a pug, because no matter how much progress we made each attempt, eventually someone gets fed up and leaves, and then you have to start over with an entirely new group.
I hope we can get that rolling. We haven't really had much success so far in getting that rolling. I don't know if it's just a happenstance of timing, but one day. Because I don't really like going in and seeing fights for the first time in a pug.
I mean, it's never an optimal situation. I definitely want to get the group off the ground, yeah.
At this point, I'm not even sure what we don't have yet.
People.
People.
I think we have enough people. It's just we need people to be consistently showing up.
Like, I know I wasn't around this week, but I had been around some of the other weeks, and other people weren't around, so...
Yep.
Yeah, that's been a thing. Like, I wasn't around last week, but I could be around this week, but...
2 of your healers won't.
Yep. And getting people geared. Like, the good news is, gearing is pretty fast right now.
Gearing to 320 is pretty fast.
Yeah.
Gearing past that is as slow as it ever was.
Yeah, I need to spend, like, tomorrow doing my Omega stuff, because, like, I've barely played the game at all this week. I would love to say I'm going to cap, but I'm not sure if I'm going to cap this week.
I did the first week. I may or may not this week.
Yeah, like, I absolutely capped last week, but, like, in theory, if I am willing to grind until I get what I need, I could end up with pants from Omega and a chess piece from Tomestones. I'm just not sure how grindy I want to be on a Sunday.
At this point, I'm mostly grinding for cracked clusters. Because I need so many cracked clusters.
Yeah, like, at this point, I'm kind of torn with that. I feel like the market is going to fall apart for cracked clusters. Cracked clusters, but materia. So, like, part of me wants to just turn it into, like, 6s and sell them now while I can still make a lot of money off of it.
That sounds optimistic. It requires people to be willing to tank leveling roulette.
I tank leveling roulette.
Yes,
leveling roulette
you do.
Has been, like, we just discussed this a little while ago. That's working.
It's definitely working. Bribing people is definitely working. When it gets to the point where I can consistently see healer in need, it's working.
Yeah. I wish it were working for any of the other roulettes. Like, unless there are other people around doing stuff, I don't do stuff, because the DPS queues for experts or for Omega stuff, if it's just me, take forever. And there's other stuff I want to do than sit around for half an hour watching a countdown tick up.
Omega roulettes are about 10 minutes, is what I've experienced.
Oh, that has not been my experience.
I am pretty convinced that there is a melee queue and a caster queue.
They attempt to make balanced groups. And as time goes on, they get less strict about that.
Yeah.
And I can tell you this, like, red mage is way the hell more popular than samurai.
There are a lot of red mages.
Yep. I mean, it's kind of the thing that I was talking about being concerned about happening, where there's just a billion red mages, and also most of them are bad, which irritates me.
I'm sorry that you are, yes, most of them are bad. Therefore, you have low expectations of your performance as soon as you enter an instance before you do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of how I feel about my entire existence as a Dragoon. Like, we are the butt of every joke.
That's because when the game came out, your class was in the position Red Mage is in now. It just never wore off.
I mean, I feel like I've grouped with plenty of bad samurais as well.
I think Samurai is the new Dragoon.
Yeah,
I have seen samurais stand in things attempted to get their cast off and just die.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's mostly what I've seen as well, is like really bad use of their sin dump.
I mean, I've seen some good ones, don't get me wrong. Like, when
Seen a
they're
lot of
good,
good
you really
ones.
notice.
But they have firmly taken up their position of the new Dragoon to me. Red Mages instead get to be the new Bard, in which they get to jump off of everything.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of red mages jumping backwards off of things to their doom.
Yeah, I feel like good red mages are highly underappreciated.
Honestly, good DPS in general are pretty underappreciated.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I felt the same way. I felt the same way when I was, saving groups as a summoner too. So, yeah. I understand why they don't, and I agree with this, but I still feel like the game could do more to showcase people who have done well without necessarily making people who didn't do well feel bad.
I am 90% sure that you can't do those things.
I'm pretty sure play of the game in Overwatch is the exact delivery mechanism for that kind of thing. It works extremely well.
People get mad when they don't get play of the game for something they did.
That's fair, but they're mad because they performed well but not quite well enough, not because they performed badly.
Well, yeah, but okay, so like as a Torbjorn player, I get a shitload of play of the games because my robot is great, and it has nothing to do with me. It's just that I place my robot in an opportune place.
I'm not saying that it's a perfect system. I'm just saying that it is a system that does a good job of rewarding good play without having DPS meters where they say, "Hey, you're below the tanks. You suck."
I'm saying the FF14 player base is pretty good because none of this stuff is available, and as soon as it is, that goes away.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see anything like that. And also, really, like, the good players who are paying attention will notice those things. It's just that the bulk of players are not paying attention and or don't care, even if you're working your ass off.
Well, like, so Red Mage or Summoner, if they res a party member...
No one cares.
No, they get my comm. Like... They get my comm for that run.
You are in the 0.0001%.
Related. I can't notice you res unless you have a res macro. Unless you res me.
Yeah, and I have to broadcast that I am saving the party.
Related, as a healer, it's actually really useful for me to know if you're about to res somebody. So you might as well have that macro. That's why I have one, because it's actually, like, I hate cute macros, but a res macro is one of the few times where I really need to know, like, is the other healer actually in the process of resing somebody or no? So that is useful, and then people will know that you did the thing.
I mean, the problem is like there's a significant number of players that don't even stick around long enough to give comms. And that's never going to change.
I have been in dungeons where I have literally been the reason the party hasn't wiped, and have rezzed both healers to save the party, and not even the healers give me a comm.
I mean, I'm a healer, and I have been in that situation too. Like, it sucks, but it happens all the time.
It's just a thing that's like, it is a lot of effort to put that in, and it just like demotivates me from doing that unless I'm playing with people I know. I don't know. It doesn't feel great.
I don't know. I mean, I play a healer, so that's what I do. But like, I just healed. I think it must have been Titan hard, and like immediately the other healer got kicked off of the platform, and I solo healed like pretty much the entire fight. Did not get any comm.
Yeah.
Like, not even the healer who was dead the whole time. Whatever. Like, it happens. It makes me angry, but, like, I do my job.
I guess I feel like when I've been playing a healer, there have been an equal number of times where I do get the comms for that. Whereas I feel like I consistently I feel like consistently I perform at a really high level as red mage, and it's as if I didn't even bother. And then I watch other bad red mages not perform at that level.
But they're also not getting comms because people don't give comms to DPS.
Yeah, but it's like, why? What's other than my own personal satisfaction? Like, why push myself to?
Your group doesn't wipe and you aren't in there for
Right.
another extra 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That. I mean, it sucks as a motivation, but that's what motivates me to do stupid things sometimes. Like when I get tanks that chain pull or like mega pull, and I hate them. Like I hate when tanks do giant pulls in experts, but I will pull out all the stops and heal my ass off to keep them alive because I don't want to waste the 30 seconds it's going to take to have to wipe and res and come back.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is just why I have been running random stuff less and less.
Yeah, conversely, if a healer dies and I have a red mage and they're not resing them, I yell at them to res them. Same with summoner too, but like I am seeing fewer and fewer summoners out in the wild.
I've not seen very many summoners out in the wild.
I think I've probably seen more warriors than any other tank, which I find weird since it previously was the cult of the paladin. Like, and I think paladins are technically in a better place than warriors right now.
I have no idea.
Tanks are all actually in pretty good spots. Paladins, I don't know if they still do more damage. I think they got some potency cut off of their giant spell. But other than that, paladins are in a much happier place than they used to be. Whereas Dark Knights Dark Knight's got a ridiculously powerful level 70 cooldown.
I feel like I've seen a lot of them.
Paladins or Dark Knights.
Dark Knights.
They're doing very good.
I am happy that I'm starting to see more scholars showing up instead of the massive army of astrologians.
Yeah, I mean, I was leveling my astrologian super hard, and then the scholar changes went in, and I stopped. I mean, scholar still doesn't feel perfect, but it feels much more comfortable to play now. I don't feel like I'm constantly struggling to keep up.
That's good. I definitely, even leveling, felt a difference between that.
I'm not seeing a lot of monks.
Ones I am seeing are doing fairly well.
Yeah, but like that, I guess that feels weird because like this is supposed to be the monk expansion.
They went for samurai instead. Everyone who was going to monk went for samurai instead.
Yeah, probably.
You know what? One thing I really like about Omega is I love the nonsense relationship of Sid and Nero.
Oh my god, yes.
Sid and Nero are amazing.
Yeah, no one is going to argue with you on this. They're great.
I also love Alpha.
Having the Chocobo's dungeon Chocobo just randomly show up is...
It's amazing.
I don't know how that happened, but I'll take it.
It's pretty hilarious.
I'm kind of hoping we get like some of the cutesy versions of the other stuff from Chocobo Dungeon.
It would be weird to see a cutie like Behemoth or Bahamut.
I'd be down. I'm curious to see which other Final Fantasy games they decide to make into the next wings of Omega.
Guessing 6?
I mean,
Yeah,
they pretty much
don't know.
mined the interdimensional rift, because anything they missed in normal, they caught in Savage. With the exception of Califisteri, who's the final boss of Weeping City.
Yeah, there's a couple of things from the interdimensional rift that show up elsewhere, like a panda.
A panda is also in Savage, actually.
Is he?
Yes.
Really? That's funny. So, what about the undead boss right before X-Death?
Necrophobe, as far as I'm aware, does not show up. Azumagia does not show up. Twintania, understandably, does not show up.
Yes. But Necrophobe and Azulmagia have never shown up.
No, as far as I know, they don't exist yet.
Azulmagia will show up when Blue Mages show up.
It seems likely. I'm still annoyed they took another poke at that in the pre-order items.
I think all in all, for me at least, it's a much more enjoyable expansion than Heaven's Word was.
Agreed.
I like it a lot, and I really liked Heaven's Word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked Heaven's Word a lot, but this felt more Final Fantasy-ish. I
The
don't know how to
leveling was
quantify that.
smoother. Like, the leveling was smoother. The dungeons, I think, on the whole, were more fun. I
Story
actually
pacing was great.
Yeah, the story pacing was great, and I weirdly cared about it more. Like, I was interested in the dragons stuff and was not interested in Alamigo and Doma and really enjoyed it.
I think a big part of it is this allowed for a bit of a reset. That we're going from a continent where we are the stuff of legend to a continent that they don't have a clue who the hell we are.
I do feel like that was handled fairly well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this experience.
Well, we've run for a while, so we probably need to start narrowing in on a wrap-up. Is there anything else that we want to talk about for Stormblood? I feel like we've kind of had this weird ping-ponging around everything instead of like a more directed route through it.
I don't know. Overall, I enjoyed the expansion a lot. I am looking forward to whatever they're having to add in, whatever they're adding in patch content. And I have no idea what it's going to be because we didn't leave that many dangling plot threads.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the more interesting things is like, it feels like the sky's kind of wide open. We don't know where we're going. Like, there's some kind of mystery reveal that we didn't get to see, but...
I mean, Kosetsu is out there somewhere.
Well, no, other than that...
Empire is, not Golbez, is sorting with Asians.
I mean, the person who walks into the chamber and everyone's shocked about it, like, I don't even have a clue who that might be.
Oh, under the mask?
Yeah.
He's talked to us before, but not, without the mask. Probably Gaius.
That's what I'm wondering, is it Gaius back?
Are we going to have our first case of merely a setback?
Maybe.
Isn't the way that works, like, actually super awful? Like, it's not Gaius in there. It wouldn't be Gaius in there. It's like...
Well, our only situation so far was an Ascian possessing a still living person, so we have no idea. Like, there was the whole Thancred thing. So, no, it's probably not Gaius.
It's Hildebrand. He's apparently an Ascian all along.
I'd believe Godbert was an Ascian all along.
I feel like if you were ever on the fence about coming back to the game to play an expansion, this is definitely an expansion you should play. Like, even if you only play the expansion, you should totally play the expansion.
Yeah, it's a good one. Final Fantasy keeps on delivering really, really good expansions, and I'm going to keep coming back to play them because I want to find out where the story goes, and it keeps going to interesting places.
The story is actually interesting, and the gameplay feels just as fun as ever.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap things up. And just to preface since we're doing everything out of order, I'll go ahead and mention it again here. For August, we will be playing Full Throttle, and it is available in a whole bunch of forms. You can go with like the classic version on, GOG, or you can play one of the remasters, and you should probably really play one of the remasters.
I actually think that's also a remaster on GOG.
Oh, like I thought they had the original on GOG as well.
Maybe they do, but they also have the remaster, and it's on sale right now, which will still be true, I think, by the time this comes out. Yeah,
anyway, you should totally play it along with us. It has been a very long time since I've played it, and I am interested to experience it again. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we'd love to hear your comments on your thoughts on Stormblood, and we will see you again next week for a normal show. Good night!
Good night!
See you.
Good night!